Welcome to Vinopoly, a Georgian wine-themed Monopoly board game. Vinopoly is tailored for 2 to 6 players. The mission is to accumulate wealth by snagging valuable assets like Georgian lands, vineyards, and chateaus and make your opponents go bankrupt. Begin by laying out the Vinopoly board on the table. Next, distribute the support cards to their designated areas on the board. Place the money and the real estate cards somewhere within reach of all players. Each player selects a bottle of wine in their desired color to use as their playing figure and receives 1,500 vinis, the currency of Vinopoly. The starting point of the game is the harvest cell, where the adventure begins. Now, let's determine who goes first. To find out, players take turns rolling the dice. The player with the highest roll makes the first move. Fill your glasses and let the game begin. The first player rolls 6 on the dice and moves their playing figure 6 cells forward on the board. With this roll, the player got the chance to buy a great piece of land in Kakheti for growing Ricotta grapes. Remember, the aim of the game is to collect property, so don't miss the chance to buy land when it comes your way. The price of the land plot is shown on the cell. Once you've paid, you'll receive the corresponding illustrated card. The amount paid goes to the bank. It's a good idea to choose one trustworthy player to handle banking duties. Now, it's the second player's turn, and they roll a 12. They land on the news cell and have to read and follow the news card. The card says whether delays impact international shipments, and the player is obliged to pay 100 vinis. Inbox cells and cards have a similar function in the game. As for the toast card, this is a Georgian traditional touch, exclusive to Vinopoly. You probably have noticed that there are Georgian restaurant cells located in 3 corners of the board. When a player reaches one of these cells, they get involved in a long Georgian feast, so they miss 3 moves. However, there are ways to avoid this. A. Roll a pair on the dice when it's their turn again. B. Pick up the toast card, give a small speech in a Georgian toast manner, finish your glass of wine and continue with your turn. Georgian toasts, wine and music go really well with Vinopoly, so don't miss the music playlist QR code on the board. Back to the rules, since the other player rolled a pair, they receive an additional bonus roll. This time, the dice show a 3, granting the second player the opportunity to purchase one of the 4 wine shops. If, for any reason, such as being short on funds, the player decides not to buy the property, it must be sold to another player willing to buy it through an auction. Now it's the third player's turn. They roll the dice and move 6 cells, landing on the same spot where the first player is already the landlord. Here's where it gets interesting. The owner of the property, in this case, the first player, checks the rent amount on the card and charges the guest accordingly. For this particular plot of land, the rent is 35 vinis. However, you'll notice that there are higher rent amounts listed on the card as well. The point is that Ricotta cell is part of a cluster consisting of 3 specific cells located on the board. These 3 cells have region, wine type, and illustration hue in common. There are several clusters like this on the board. When a single player owns all the properties within a cluster, they become the monopolist of that cluster, giving the right to build vineyards and chateaus on these properties. This is an essential investment because if another player lands on these properties, they'll have to pay increased rent. The highest rent is charged for a chateau. Securing chateaus is the key to winning this game. There are some nuances to consider. Only an equal number of vineyards can be planted on the cells of the cluster they belong to. For instance, you can't have 1 hectare of Ricotta and 3 hectares of Kissi. Also, it's only possible to build a chateau when you've already put 4 hectares in every cell of the cluster. If you find yourself in need of money and decide to sell the vineyards or the chateau, you'll only receive half of the amount you originally paid. In dire situations, you can mortgage the land plot and receive a corresponding amount, though it will cost you slightly more to regain your property later. The game goes on. The players keep rolling the dice, aiming to buy up as much property as they can. Once they own clusters, they start draining hefty sums from their rivals in rent. Once a player completes a full circuit around the board, passing the harvest point, they receive 200 vinis from the bank. To reach their goal, players also can sell or exchange properties to each other or negotiate any other terms and conditions, whatever comes to their mind. The ultimate winner is the player who bankrupts all competitors and gains control of the entire board. Enjoy the game and don't forget to drink responsibly.